Do you believe that sometimes the most underestimated individuals hold the key to the truth? Can a brilliant lawyer be sidelined simply because of her skin color and outdated prejudices? The answer will unfold in this gripping tale, where a seemingly disadvantaged woman dares to stand against injustice and turn the tables in a sensational courtroom battle. Join us on Anna Walker's challenging journey to uncover the truth hidden behind layers of deceit. The year is 2025. In a prestigious law firm nestled in the heart of bustling New York City, afternoon sunlight streamed through the large glass windows, illuminating the neat desk of Anna Walker. She was a black woman in her early 30s, possessing a sharp intellect and an impressive academic record from top law schools. But today, a palpable sense of disappointment hung heavy in her office. A gentle knock on the door interrupted Anna's thoughts. Richard Miller, a distinguished white man with a perpetually confident smile, entered. "Anna," Richard began, a hint of insincerity in his tone, "I regret to inform you, but the senior partners have decided to assign the Omnicorp financial fraud case to me." Anna looked up, her deep brown eyes reflecting a mixture of determination and hurt. "But Richard, my file." Richard raised a hand, cutting her off curtly. "Your file is excellent, Anna, undeniably so. However, this is a high-profile case requiring extensive connections within the judicial system. And you know." He paused slightly, his gaze flicking over Anna's skin with an uncomfortable implication. Anna's fists clenched beneath the desk. She understood Richard's meaning all too well. In the eyes of the firm's conservative partners, she, a black woman, no matter how talented, was merely a token, a pawn in their power play. "I understand," Anna managed, striving to keep her voice even, though the disappointment was evident. Richard patted her shoulder condescendingly. "Don't worry, Anna. There will be other cases more suitable for you." He turned and walked out of the office, leaving Anna alone with her bitterness and a simmering fire of indignation in her heart. The sting of Richard's words, laced with condescension and prejudice, lingered in Anna's mind long after he had left her office. The casual dismissal of her hard work, the insinuation that her qualifications were secondary to her race in securing a high-profile case, festered like an open wound. While outwardly she had maintained a semblance of composure, inwardly, a storm was brewing. The injustice of the situation was palpable, but beyond that, a nagging suspicion began to take root. Why was the firm so quick to dismiss her? A lawyer with a proven track record and a meticulously prepared file, in favor of Richard Miller, whose reputation, while polished, lacked the tangible results Anna had consistently delivered. The official explanation of Richard's superior connections within the judicial system felt flimsy, a convenient excuse to mask a more insidious truth. Anna had witnessed firsthand the subtle biases at play within the firm, the unspoken assumptions and the glass ceiling that seemed to perpetually hover just above her head. This incident with the Omnicorp case felt like a stark manifestation of that ingrained prejudice. But as she replayed the conversation in her mind, a new element emerged, a sense that Richard himself wasn't entirely confident in his abilities to handle such a complex case. His eagerness to accept the assignment, coupled with the almost dismissive way he spoke about her detailed preparation, struck a discordant note. It was as if he were more concerned with securing the prestige of the case than with the actual legal complexities involved. This unease intensified over the next few days. Anna found herself observing Richard, his interactions with colleagues, his hurried phone calls held behind closed doors. There was an air of secrecy surrounding him, a subtle shift in his demeanor that hadn't been there before. He seemed almost anxious, despite having landed the biggest case of his career. This anxiety contrasted sharply with the confident facade he projected. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that the firm's decision wasn't just about connections. It was about something else entirely. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was beginning to sprout tendrils of suspicion, urging Anna to look closer, to delve deeper into the circumstances surrounding the Omnicorp case. The turning point came unexpectedly, during a late evening at the office. Most of the floor had emptied out, leaving a quiet hum of computers and the occasional rustle of papers. Anna was catching up on some less pressing matters, her mind still preoccupied with the Omnicorp situation. As she walked past Richard's slightly ajar office door on her way to the break room, she heard voices. Curiosity, initially hesitant, quickly morphed into a sense of urgency as she recognized Richard's distinct tone. "Of course, I had to take this, John." Richard's voice was laced with an almost arrogant triumph. "Omnicorp is a gold mine, and I've already had some preliminary discussions with a couple of judges I know. This is practically a guaranteed win." Anna froze, her hand hovering over the break room door handle. She shouldn't be eavesdropping, but the casual mention of discussions with judges sent a shiver of unease down her spine. "But I heard Anna Walker had put together a very thorough file." A second voice, belonging to John, a junior associate, replied with a hint of concern. Richard scoffed. "A good file is only half the battle, John. In this game, it's all about who you know. And she's simply out of her league in this kind of arena." Anna's blood ran cold. Richard's words weren't just dismissive of her abilities. They were disturbingly suggestive of impropriety. The casual mention of pretrial discussions with judges hinted at a level of unethical behavior that was deeply concerning. It wasn't just about her losing the case. It was about the integrity of the legal system itself. Quietly, Anna retreated to her own office, her mind racing. The overheard conversation confirmed her growing suspicions. Richard wasn't just leveraging connections. He was seemingly attempting to manipulate the outcome of the trial through potentially illegal means. The thought sent a wave of nausea through her. She had always prided herself on her ethical approach to the law, and the idea that a colleague, someone within her own firm, would stoop to such tactics was deeply unsettling. The injustice she felt earlier now intensified, fueled by a sense of moral outrage. She couldn't simply stand by and watch this unfold. The truth needed to be brought to light, regardless of the personal cost. Driven by her conscience and a growing conviction that something was deeply wrong, Anna began to discreetly investigate the Omnicorp case. She revisited the files she had meticulously compiled, comparing them with the limited information Richard had made public within the firm. What she found was troubling. Richard's proposed defense strategy seemed superficial, focusing on technicalities and procedural delays rather than addressing the core allegations of financial fraud. It was a strategy designed to obfuscate, to muddy the waters, rather than to present a legitimate defense. Anna noticed that Richard was actively downplaying the significance of key financial documents, dismissing them as minor accounting errors. Yet, her own analysis of these documents revealed a pattern of inconsistencies and irregularities that pointed towards deliberate manipulation. The numbers simply didn't add up. Large sums of money appeared to have been moved through shell corporations, their origins and destinations deliberately obscured. This wasn't mere negligence. It was a calculated effort to deceive. Furthermore, Anna observed Richard's interactions with the Omnicorp legal team. Their meetings were characterized by a distinct lack of transparency. Documents were exchanged in hushed tones, and conversations often ceased abruptly when anyone else approached. There was a palpable air of secrecy surrounding their collaboration, further fueling Anna's suspicions. It seemed as though they were actively trying to hide something. Anna confided in her friend, David Chun, the financial analyst she had met during her university years. David, known for his meticulous attention to detail and his sharp analytical mind, agreed to take a look at the financial statements Anna managed to subtly obtain. After spending several days poring over the complex data, David's findings were even more alarming than Anna had anticipated. "Anna, these figures have been completely fabricated," David said, his voice filled with disbelief. "There are blatant discrepancies, inconsistencies that no legitimate accounting firm would overlook. Omnicorp has deliberately concealed massive profits and evaded taxes on a grand scale." Anna's heart sank. David's confirmation solidified her worst fears. Richard wasn't just defending a guilty corporation. He was actively complicit in their deception, using unethical tactics to protect them from the consequences of their illegal actions. The injustice was no longer just about her being sidelined. It was about a powerful corporation manipulating the legal system to evade accountability for their crimes, potentially harming countless individuals in the process. Anna knew she had to do something, but the path ahead seemed fraught with danger. She was a lone individual standing against a powerful corporation and a seemingly corrupt legal strategy. Armed with David's analysis and her own growing understanding of Omnicorp's fraudulent activities, Anna embarked on a clandestine investigation. Working late into the night, fueled by coffee and a burning sense of righteous anger, she meticulously pieced together the puzzle. She scoured publicly available records, cross-referencing financial reports, news articles, and regulatory filings. She reached out to former Omnicorp employees, carefully cultivating sources who might be willing to share information, even at the risk of their own careers. The process was slow and arduous, fraught with dead ends and moments of frustration. But Anna's determination never wavered. She knew that the truth was out there, and she was determined to unearth it. She learned about shell corporations established in offshore tax havens, intricate schemes designed to launder money and hide assets. She uncovered a pattern of insider trading, with key executives at Omnicorp selling off large amounts of stock just before the company's financial troubles became public knowledge. As she delved deeper, Anna also began to uncover more about Richard Miller's involvement. She found emails exchanged between Richard and Omnicorp executives, discussing strategies to suppress evidence and mislead the court. There were even veiled references to financial incentives offered to Richard in exchange for his cooperation. The more she learned, the clearer it became that Richard wasn't just an unwitting pawn. He was an active participant in the cover-up. The risks involved in her investigation were significant. Anna knew that if her activities were discovered, she could face severe repercussions, potentially jeopardizing her career and even her personal safety. The legal world was a tightly knit community, and crossing powerful figures like those at Omnicorp and within her own firm could have serious consequences. Yet, the thought of allowing such blatant injustice to prevail outweighed her fear. She felt a moral obligation to expose the truth, not just for herself, but for everyone who could be harmed by Omnicorp's fraudulent activities. With a substantial amount of incriminating evidence in her possession, Anna knew she couldn't keep it to herself any longer. Despite the risks, she decided to present her findings to the senior partners at the law firm. She hoped that, faced with irrefutable proof of Richard Miller's unethical conduct and Omnicorp's fraudulent activities, the firm would take action. She believed, perhaps naively, that their commitment to justice and their own reputation would compel them to do the right thing. Anna requested a meeting with the senior partners, laying out her concerns and presenting the evidence she had painstakingly gathered. She detailed the inconsistencies in Omnicorp's financial statements, the suspicious transactions, and Richard Miller's apparent complicity in the cover-up. She spoke with passion and conviction, her voice filled with the urgency of the situation. However, the response she received was far from what she had hoped for. The senior partners listened to her presentation with an air of skepticism and thinly veiled annoyance. They questioned her motives, suggesting that she was simply bitter about losing the Omnicorp case. They dismissed her evidence as circumstantial and insufficient to warrant such serious accusations. "Anna, we appreciate your diligence." One of the senior partners, Mr. Henderson, a man known for his conservative views and close ties to influential figures in the city, said with a dismissive wave of his hand, "But we have complete faith in Richard's handling of this case. He is a highly respected member of this firm, and we have no reason to doubt his integrity." Another partner, Ms. Davies, a sharp and pragmatic woman, echoed his sentiments. "Frankly, Anna, these allegations are quite damaging. Without concrete proof, you are risking serious repercussions for defamation. We advise you to drop this matter immediately." Anna was stunned. They were choosing to believe Richard, a man with questionable ethics, over her, someone who had consistently proven her dedication and competence. It was clear that their loyalty lay not with the truth or with justice, but with maintaining the firm's prestigious image and protecting their lucrative relationship with Omnicorp. Her plea for justice had fallen on deaf ears. The naked injustice of the situation was laid bare before her. The senior partners' refusal to acknowledge the evidence and their unwavering support for Richard Miller left Anna feeling deeply betrayed. She had dedicated years of hard work and commitment to the firm, believing in its principles and values. Now, she realized that those principles were merely a facade, easily discarded when faced with the allure of power and profit. The atmosphere in the office became increasingly hostile towards Anna. Her colleagues, who had once been friendly and supportive, now avoided her gaze, whispering behind her back. She could feel the chill in the air, the unspoken disapproval and the fear of association. She was being ostracized, treated like a pariah for daring to challenge the status quo. Richard Miller, emboldened by the firm's unwavering support, became even more arrogant and dismissive towards Anna. He would often make snide remarks in her presence, subtly reminding her of his victory and her perceived failure. The injustice of it all was almost unbearable. She had uncovered serious wrongdoing, presented compelling evidence, and yet she was the one being punished, while the perpetrators were being shielded. The weight of the betrayal and the blatant disregard for justice began to take a toll on Anna. She felt isolated and alone, questioning her own judgment and wondering if she had made a mistake in pursuing the truth. But deep down, a stubborn refusal to back down persisted. She knew she was right, and she couldn't simply walk away and pretend that she hadn't seen what she had seen. The truth, she knew, had a power of its own, and she was determined to find a way to unleash it, even if it meant standing against everyone who had turned their backs on her. The bitterness of betrayal only strengthened her resolve to fight for what was right. Despite the cold reception she had received during her initial informal presentation of evidence, Anna felt compelled to make one final, formal attempt to bring the truth to light within the firm. She meticulously organized all the evidence she had gathered, creating a comprehensive dossier that clearly outlined Omnicorp's fraudulent activities and Richard Miller's complicity. She included the financial analysis from David Chen, the internal emails she had managed to obtain, and a detailed timeline of suspicious events. This wasn't just a collection of data. It was a carefully constructed narrative, a damning indictment of the corruption that had taken root within their seemingly reputable firm. Anna requested an official meeting with the entire senior partnership, insisting that the gravity of the situation warranted their full attention. There was a palpable tension in the air as she entered the mahogany-paneled boardroom. The senior partners were all present, their faces a mixture of apprehension and irritation. Richard Miller sat at the far end of the table, a smug expression playing on his lips, radiating an air of unshakable confidence. Mr. Henderson, the firm's senior partner, gestured curtly for Anna to begin. Anna took a deep breath, trying to quell the nervous flutter in her stomach. She laid the thick dossier on the table, the weight of it symbolic of the truth she was about to unveil. Her voice, though calm, carried a note of unwavering conviction as she began to speak. She walked the partners through the timeline of events, presenting the financial irregularities in a clear and concise manner. She highlighted the discrepancies in Omnicorp's reports, pointing to the specific transactions and shell corporations involved in the alleged fraud. She then presented the emails, reading excerpts that clearly demonstrated Richard Miller's knowledge of and participation in the scheme. Throughout her presentation, Anna maintained eye contact with each of the partners, her gaze unwavering. She spoke with authority, her legal expertise shining through as she explained the potential legal ramifications for both Omnicorp and the law firm if these allegations were proven true. She appealed to their sense of justice, to their professional ethics, reminding them of their responsibility to uphold the integrity of the legal system. This was her final stand, her last attempt to appeal to their better judgment, to convince them that the truth mattered more than protecting their bottom line or the reputation of a favored colleague. As Anna presented her evidence, Richard Miller remained outwardly composed, but a subtle shift in his demeanor betrayed his growing unease. He occasionally shifted in his seat, his smile faltering momentarily as Anna presented particularly damning pieces of information. When Anna finally concluded her presentation, a tense silence filled the room. It was Richard who broke it, his voice dripping with feigned indignation. "This is outrageous," Richard declared, his tone carefully calibrated to convey offense and disbelief. "These are baseless accusations, fueled by Ms. Walker's personal disappointment at not being assigned this case. The evidence she has presented is taken out of context, misinterpreted, and frankly, fabricated in some instances." Richard then launched into a carefully constructed counternarrative, attempting to discredit Anna's findings and portray her as a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. He attacked her credibility, insinuating that her judgment was clouded by personal bias. He offered alternative explanations for the financial irregularities, downplaying their significance and portraying them as minor accounting discrepancies. He even went so far as to suggest that Anna had manipulated the emails, twisting their meaning to fit her preconceived narrative. He spoke with practiced ease, his words carefully chosen to appeal to the partners' existing biases and their desire to protect the firm's reputation. He emphasized his long-standing relationship with the firm and his successful track record, contrasting it with Anna's relatively shorter tenure. He subtly reminded them of the potential damage to the firm's image and their own careers if they were to entertain Anna's wild accusations. His performance was masterful, a calculated attempt to sow doubt and undermine the credibility of Anna's meticulously gathered evidence. He played on their fears, their prejudices, and their self-interest, effectively turning the tables and casting Anna as the aggressor, the one threatening the firm's stability. Following Richard's impassioned denial and counter-arguments, the senior partners engaged in a brief, closed-door deliberation. Anna waited outside, her heart pounding in her chest, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. Despite the overwhelming evidence she had presented, a sense of foreboding washed over her. She had witnessed their initial reaction, their ingrained biases, and their unwavering support for Richard. She knew that the odds were stacked against her. The deliberation lasted longer than Anna expected, but when the senior partners finally emerged, their faces were grim. Mr. Henderson stepped forward, his expression grave. "Ms. Walker," he began, his voice devoid of any warmth or empathy, "we have carefully considered the information you have presented, as well as Mr. Miller's response. While we acknowledge your concerns, we have ultimately concluded that there is insufficient evidence to support your serious allegations against Mr. Miller and Omnicorp." Anna's heart sank. She had known, deep down, what the verdict would be, but hearing it aloud still felt like a punch to the gut. The injustice was staggering. They were choosing to ignore irrefutable evidence, to protect a potentially corrupt colleague and a powerful client, all in the name of preserving the firm's image and their own financial interests. Mr. Henderson continued, his gaze unwavering. "Furthermore, we find your actions in pursuing this matter, despite our previous instructions, to be disruptive and detrimental to the firm's stability. Your accusations have created unnecessary tension and could potentially damage our relationship with a key client. Therefore, we have made the difficult decision to terminate your employment with immediate effect." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Anna felt a wave of shock wash over her, followed by a surge of anger and disbelief. They weren't just dismissing her evidence. They were punishing her for uncovering the truth. The betrayal was complete. The news of her dismissal hit Anna like a physical blow. The years of dedication, the countless hours of hard work, the sacrifices she had made all seemed to count for nothing. She had poured her heart and soul into her career at this firm, believing in its values and its commitment to justice. Now she was being cast aside, deemed a troublemaker for daring to expose the darkness that lurked beneath the firm's polished veneer. The senior partners offered no words of comfort or explanation, their faces cold and impassive. Richard Miller watched the scene unfold with a smug satisfaction, a barely concealed smirk playing on his lips. The injustice of it all was almost suffocating. Anna felt a profound sense of disillusionment, her faith in the legal system and in the integrity of her profession shaken to its core. She was instructed to clear out her office immediately. As she walked back to her desk, the eyes of her colleagues followed her, a mixture of pity and fear in their gazes. No one dared to approach her, to offer a word of support or sympathy. They were all too afraid of facing the same fate. The isolation was palpable, a stark reminder of the power dynamics at play within the firm. Packing her belongings into a cardboard box felt surreal. Each item she carefully placed inside her law school diplomas, her framed awards, the personal mementos that had adorned her desk, served as a painful reminder of what she was losing. It wasn't just a job. It was her career, her identity, the future she had envisioned for herself. And it was being taken away from her simply because she had dared to speak the truth. The crushing weight of the dismissal settled upon her, a heavy burden of injustice and betrayal. The task of packing up her office was a somber affair. Each item Anna touched seemed to carry a memory, a reminder of the hopes and aspirations she had once held for her career at the firm. The framed photographs of her graduation, the small trinkets gifted by colleagues during happier times, the worn copies of legal textbooks. They all spoke of a life she had built, a life that was now being abruptly dismantled. As she sorted through her files, Anna couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. Had she been naive to think that the truth would prevail? Had she underestimated the power of money and influence? The senior partner's blatant disregard for the evidence she had presented was a stark reminder of the realities of the legal world, a world where loyalty to clients and profits often trumped ethical considerations. Yet, amidst the sadness and disappointment, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She refused to let this setback define her. She had done nothing wrong. She had acted with integrity and courage, and she would not allow their injustice to extinguish her passion for the law. As she carefully packed the last of her belongings, a new sense of determination began to solidify within her. This wasn't the end of her story. It was merely a new chapter. She would find a way to fight back, to expose the truth, even if she had to do it on her own. The shattered pieces of her dream were not irreparable. They would simply be reshaped into something stronger, something more resilient. With the cardboard box filled with the remnants of her professional life at the firm, Anna walked out of her office for the last time. The silence in the hallway was deafening, broken only by the soft thud of her footsteps. She could feel the eyes of her former colleagues on her, their expressions a mixture of pity, fear, and perhaps even a hint of admiration. No one approached her, no one offered a farewell. The unspoken message was clear. She was now an outcast, someone to be avoided. As she reached the main reception area, she paused for a moment, taking in the familiar surroundings. The polished marble floors, the imposing mahogany reception desk, the firm's prestigious logo emblazoned on the wall. It all seemed so grand and impressive. Yet beneath the surface lay a core of corruption and injustice. Without a word, Anna walked out of the building and into the bustling New York City street. The noise and energy of the city were a stark contrast to the quiet chill she had just left behind. As she hailed a taxi, she looked back at the towering skyscraper that had once housed her dreams. There was no sadness in her heart, only a steely resolve. They may have silenced her within those walls, but they hadn't silenced her spirit. She would find another platform, another way to make her voice heard. The walk out of the firm wasn't a walk of defeat. It was a silent act of defiance, a promise to herself that her fight for justice was far from over. The city, with its endless possibilities, now felt like her new battleground. The taxi ride away from the imposing skyscraper felt like a departure from a life she no longer recognized. The sting of betrayal was sharp, but beneath it, a steely resolve began to harden within Anna. She had been silenced within the confines of the law firm, but she refused to be silenced altogether. They had underestimated her once. They wouldn't do it again. As the city lights blurred past the window, Anna made a decision. She would take her fight public. She would expose the truth about Omnicorp and Richard Miller, even if she had to do it on her own. The thought of going up against a powerful corporation and a well-connected lawyer was daunting, but the alternative, allowing injustice to prevail, was unbearable. Anna knew it wouldn't be easy. She would face skepticism, ridicule, and potentially even legal threats. But the burning desire to clear her name and to see justice served outweighed her fear. She had the evidence and she had the truth on her side. That, she believed, was a powerful weapon. Anna spent the next few days in a whirlwind of activity. She contacted David Chun, explaining her dismissal and her decision to go public. David, ever the loyal friend, immediately offered his unwavering support. He agreed to help her organize the financial evidence and present it in a way that would be understandable to the public. Anna also reached out to a few contacts she had in the media, journalists she had interacted with in the past and who she believed might be willing to listen to her story. Anna knew that simply making accusations wouldn't be enough. She needed a platform to present her evidence in a clear and compelling manner. With David's help, she began to build a website, a digital repository for all the information she had gathered. They meticulously uploaded the financial analysis, the incriminating emails, and a detailed account of her experience with the law firm. The website was designed to be user-friendly, allowing anyone to access and understand the complex information. Anna also crafted a powerful statement, outlining the fraudulent activities of Omnicorp, Richard Miller's involvement, and the law firm's complicity in the cover-up. She detailed her attempts to bring the truth to light internally and the subsequent retaliation she had faced. Her tone was measured and factual, focusing on the evidence rather than resorting to emotional outbursts. Simultaneously, Anna worked on reaching out to journalists. She contacted reporters at major newspapers and online news outlets, pitching her story and offering to provide them with exclusive access to her evidence. She knew that getting her story into the mainstream media was crucial to reaching a wider audience and putting pressure on Omnicorp and the law firm. The initial responses were mixed. Some journalists were intrigued but cautious, wanting to verify her claims before committing to a story. Others were hesitant to take on such a potentially controversial and legally complex case. But Anna persevered, tirelessly following up and providing them with preliminary information to pique their interest. When Anna finally launched her website and her story began to circulate through her media contacts, the initial reaction was a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Some dismissed her claims as the rantings of a disgruntled former employee, loyal to the powerful narrative presented by Omnicorp and the respected law firm. Others, however, were drawn to the detailed evidence she presented and the compelling nature of her account. Online forums and social media platforms became battlegrounds for debate. Some users questioned Anna's motives and credibility, while others rallied behind her, expressing outrage at the alleged injustice. The law firm and Omnicorp initially remained silent, hoping the controversy would die down. But as more people began to pay attention, their carefully constructed facade began to show cracks. Anna faced numerous challenges in getting her voice heard. She was often portrayed as an unreliable narrator, her accusations dismissed as the product of personal vendetta. The powerful public relations machinery of Omnicorp worked tirelessly to discredit her, releasing carefully worded statements denying all wrongdoing and painting Anna as a disgruntled and unstable individual. Despite these challenges, Anna found glimmers of hope. A few smaller news outlets and investigative bloggers began to take her story seriously, digging deeper into the evidence she had provided. They interviewed her at length, scrutinizing her claims and independently verifying some of the information she had presented. Slowly but surely, the narrative began to shift. Whispers of doubt about Omnicorp and Richard Miller started to circulate, chipping away at their carefully cultivated image of respectability. In stark contrast to Anna's uphill battle to be heard, Richard Miller appeared to be thriving. He basked in the continued support of the law firm and the positive media coverage orchestrated by Omnicorp's PR team. He gave confident interviews, reiterating his innocence and subtly denigrating Anna's accusations as baseless and malicious. Richard leveraged his extensive network of contacts within the legal and judicial circles, ensuring that the narrative being presented in the mainstream media remained firmly in his favor. He attended high-profile social events, further solidifying his image as a respected and successful lawyer. His arrogance seemed to grow with each passing day, fueled by the belief that he was untouchable, that his connections and influence would shield him from any consequences. He even made veiled references to Anna in some of his interviews, portraying her as a bitter and misguided individual who was attempting to tarnish his reputation out of spite. His confidence was so absolute that he seemed to genuinely believe he had weathered the storm and that Anna's efforts would ultimately amount to nothing. He underestimated the power of truth and the resilience of a woman who had been wronged. As Anna continued her efforts to gather more evidence and gain wider media attention, she received an unexpected message through her website's anonymous contact form. The message was brief and cryptic, containing only a few lines. Look deeper into the Grant Foundation. Financial records from 2020 might be illuminating. Someone within the company wants the truth out. The message sent a jolt of adrenaline through Anna. The Grant Foundation was a charitable organization associated with Omnicorp, often touted as a symbol of the company's philanthropic endeavors. Anna had briefly looked into it during her initial investigation but hadn't found anything particularly suspicious. However, the anonymous message suggested that there might be more to the story, particularly concerning financial records from 2020. The mention of someone within the company wanting the truth out gave Anna a renewed sense of hope. It suggested that she wasn't alone in her fight, that there were others who were aware of the wrongdoing and were willing to risk their own safety to expose it. This anonymous tip provided Anna with a new lead, a fresh direction for her investigation. Following the anonymous tip, Anna shifted her focus to the Grant Foundation. She spent countless hours poring over publicly available information about the organization, its mission, its board members, and its financial filings. She cross-referenced this information with Omnicorp's financial records from 2020, looking for any connections or irregularities. The initial findings were unremarkable. The Grant Foundation appeared to be a legitimate charitable organization, funding various community initiatives. However, Anna remembered the cryptic message. Financial records from 2020 might be illuminating. She decided to dig deeper into the foundation's financial activities during that specific year. She managed to obtain more detailed financial reports through a contact she had cultivated within a regulatory agency. As she meticulously reviewed these documents, she began to notice some unusual transactions. Large sums of money had been transferred from Omnicorp to the Grant Foundation, and then quickly dispersed to various obscure entities with no clear charitable purpose. The amounts involved were significant, and the timing of the transactions raised red flags. Anna also discovered that several key executives at Omnicorp, including Richard Miller, held prominent positions within the Grant Foundation during that period. This connection further fueled her suspicion that the foundation might have been used as a conduit for illicit activities. The anonymous tip was proving to be incredibly valuable, providing her with a crucial thread to unravel the larger web of deceit. Driven by her findings regarding the Grant Foundation, Anna decided to focus her efforts on obtaining the Foundation's internal communications from 2020. She knew that these emails and documents could potentially provide concrete evidence of any wrongdoing. She reached out to her anonymous contact again through her website, cautiously hinting at her discoveries and asking for any further assistance they might be able to provide. A few days later, Anna received another anonymous message, this time containing an encrypted file. After several attempts, she managed to decrypt the file, and what she found sent a shockwave through her. It was a trove of internal emails exchanged between Omnicorp executives and Richard Miller, clearly outlining a scheme to funnel millions of dollars through the Grant Foundation for personal gain and to evade taxes. The emails detailed the creation of fake invoices, the manipulation of financial records, and the deliberate concealment of these transactions. Among the documents was a particularly damning email exchange between Richard Miller and Omnicorp's chief financial officer, discussing the specific amounts of money to be laundered through the foundation and the kickbacks Richard was to receive for his cooperation. This was the smoking gun, the irrefutable proof of both Omnicorp's fraudulent activities and Richard Miller's direct involvement. Anna knew that this evidence, if made public, would be devastating for both the corporation and the lawyer who had so confidently dismissed her. Anna knew that this explosive evidence needed to reach the right hands, hands that could ensure it would be brought to the attention of the widest possible audience. She contacted her most trusted media contact, the investigative journalist who had shown genuine interest in her story. She explained that she had obtained crucial new evidence that would definitively prove her allegations. After a series of cautious communications, Anna arranged a discreet meeting with the journalist. She presented him with the encrypted file and provided him with the decryption key. The journalist, a seasoned professional with a keen eye for a significant story, immediately recognized the gravity of the evidence. He promised Anna that he would thoroughly verify the authenticity of the documents and then publish a comprehensive report. Meanwhile, the anonymous source, having provided Anna with the crucial evidence, also took steps to ensure its wider dissemination. They secretly contacted the editor-in-chief of a major national newspaper, providing them with a copy of the same incriminating documents. The editor, known for their commitment to investigative journalism and their willingness to take on powerful institutions, recognized the significance of the information. The wheels were now in motion. The truth, painstakingly uncovered by Anna and her anonymous ally, was finally poised to break into the public consciousness, ready to shatter the carefully constructed lies of Omnicorp and Richard Miller. The following morning, the headline screamed across the front page of the nation's leading newspaper, "Omnicorp Scandal. Internal documents reveal massive financial fraud and lawyer complicity." The meticulously researched article, based on the evidence provided by Anna's anonymous source, laid bare the intricate web of deceit orchestrated by Omnicorp executives and implicating Richard Miller directly in the scheme. The report detailed the fraudulent activities involving the Grant Foundation, publishing excerpts from the damning emails and outlining the flow of illicit funds. The impact was immediate and seismic. The news sent shockwaves through the financial markets, causing Omnicorp's stock to plummet. Public outrage was swift and fierce, with calls for immediate investigation and prosecution flooding social media and news channels. The reputation of the prestigious law firm that had so readily dismissed Anna was also severely tarnished, facing a barrage of criticism for their apparent blindness to the wrongdoing within their own ranks. Richard Miller, who had so confidently navigated the legal landscape, found himself thrust into the harsh glare of public scrutiny. His name and face were plastered across every news outlet, his once respected image now synonymous with corruption and betrayal. The legal community, once his allies, now viewed him with suspicion and disdain. The carefully constructed wall of influence and connections he had relied upon began to crumble under the weight of the undeniable evidence. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation on the first day of the trial against Omnicorp. The case had become a national spectacle, a symbol of the fight against corporate greed and legal corruption. The gallery was packed with journalists, legal observers, and members of the public eager to witness the unfolding drama. Omnicorp's legal team, a phalanx of high-powered attorneys, presented a united front of steely determination. At the defense table sat Richard Miller, his usual confident demeanor appearing somewhat strained, a flicker of anxiety visible beneath his carefully maintained composure. The prosecution presented its opening arguments, laying out the charges against Omnicorp and outlining the evidence they intended to present. They painted a picture of a corporation driven by greed, willing to engage in elaborate schemes to defraud investors and evade taxes. They also highlighted Richard Miller's role in facilitating and concealing these illegal activities. Richard's defense team followed, attempting to portray Omnicorp as a victim of unfortunate accounting errors and Richard Miller as an unwitting participant who had been misled by his clients. They argued that the emails were taken out of context and that there was no concrete proof of intentional wrongdoing. Richard himself maintained a stoic expression, occasionally nodding in agreement with his lawyers, trying to project an image of innocence and unwavering confidence. However, the weight of the evidence already in the public domain cast a long shadow over their attempts to deny the truth. As the trial progressed, the prosecution began to present its case, meticulously introducing financial documents and witness testimonies to support their allegations against Omnicorp. Richard Miller's defense team mounted a vigorous cross-examination, attempting to discredit the prosecution's witnesses and poke holes in their evidence. The courtroom drama unfolded day after day, captivating the nation. Then, on the third day of the trial, a hush fell over the courtroom as the plaintiff's legal team announced a change in representation. Stepping forward to stand alongside the lead prosecutor was none other than Anna Walker. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. Her unexpected appearance sent a shockwave through the courtroom, catching both the defense and the prosecution somewhat off guard. The circumstances leading to Anna's involvement were as dramatic as her arrival. Following the publication of the newspaper report, a senior executive within Omnicorp, a man burdened by guilt and disillusioned by the company's corrupt practices, had secretly reached out to Anna. He had been the anonymous source who provided the crucial evidence to the newspaper, and he had been deeply impressed by Anna's courage and determination. Believing in her unwavering commitment to justice, he had used his influence to ensure that Anna was brought on as a legal consultant for the plaintiff's team, providing them with her invaluable insights and deep understanding of the case. Standing before the judge and the jury, Anna Walker exuded an aura of quiet confidence and unwavering resolve. Her presence alone was a powerful statement, a testament to her resilience and her refusal to be silenced. When it was her turn to address the court, a hush fell over the room. "Your Honor, members of the jury," Anna began, her voice clear and steady, "I stand before you today not just as a legal consultant, but as someone who witnessed firsthand the fraudulent activities of Omnicorp and the unethical conduct of Mr. Richard Miller." She went on to outline the evidence she had uncovered, reiterating the key findings of her investigation and highlighting the deliberate attempts to conceal the truth. She spoke with authority and conviction, her words carrying the weight of her personal experience and her unwavering belief in justice. "We will present evidence that will irrefutably demonstrate how Omnicorp executives, with the active participation of Mr. Miller, engaged in a systematic scheme to defraud investors and evade taxes," Anna declared, her gaze fixed on the jury. "We will show you the emails, the financial records, the testimonies that will leave no doubt as to their guilt. This is not just a case about financial fraud. It is a case about accountability, about ensuring that those who abuse their power and betray the public trust are held responsible for their actions." Her opening statement was a powerful and compelling promise of the truth to come, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation with Richard Miller and the forces that had tried to silence her. The jury listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. Anna's unexpected appearance had injected a new level of intensity into the trial, and everyone in the courtroom knew that they were about to witness something extraordinary. As the trial progressed and Anna began to actively participate in the questioning of witnesses, Richard Miller's carefully constructed facade of confidence began to crumble. He watched Anna with a mixture of disbelief and growing apprehension. Her intimate knowledge of the case, her sharp intellect, and her unwavering focus on the truth proved to be a formidable challenge to his defense strategy. During cross-examinations, Anna's questions were precise and incisive, often catching Richard's witnesses off guard and exposing inconsistencies in their testimonies. She had a deep understanding of the financial intricacies of the case, and she was able to dissect complex transactions with remarkable clarity, making it difficult for the defense to obfuscate the truth. Richard himself became visibly more agitated as the trial wore on. He fidgeted in his seat, his once confident smile replaced by a nervous frown. He would often whisper frantically with his lawyers, his composure clearly shaken by Anna's relentless pursuit of the truth. The courtroom observers could sense the shift in momentum, the growing feeling that Richard Miller's carefully crafted defense was beginning to unravel under Anna's persistent scrutiny. The classic confrontation had begun, and the underdog was clearly gaining ground. The turning point in the trial came when Anna presented the irrefutable evidence she had obtained regarding the Grant Foundation scandal. With meticulous precision, she walked the jury through the incriminating emails, displaying key excerpts on large screens in the courtroom. The emails clearly detailed the scheme to funnel money through the foundation for personal gain and tax evasion, explicitly mentioning Richard Miller's involvement and the financial benefits he was to receive. The impact of this evidence was palpable. The jury members, who had been listening intently throughout the trial, now leaned forward, their expressions reflecting shock and disbelief. Even Richard Miller's defense team appeared visibly shaken by the undeniable nature of the proof. The carefully constructed narrative of innocent accounting errors and a misled lawyer evaporated in the face of these damning internal communications. Anna then presented the financial records, tracing the flow of money from Omnicorp to the Grant Foundation and then to various obscure entities with no legitimate charitable purpose. David Chun, acting as an expert witness, provided a clear and concise explanation of the financial manipulations, making it easy for the jury to understand the fraudulent nature of the transactions. The evidence was overwhelming, leaving little room for doubt about the guilt of Omnicorp and Richard Miller. The tension in the courtroom reached its peak when Anna Walker took the stand to cross-examine Richard Miller. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the direct confrontation between the woman who had been wronged and the man who had orchestrated her downfall. Anna's questions were sharp and direct, cutting through Richard's carefully rehearsed denials and evasive answers. She held him accountable for his actions, forcing him to confront the evidence that clearly implicated him in the fraud. "Mr. Miller," Anna began, her voice steady but firm, "you testified earlier that you were unaware of any fraudulent activities at Omnicorp. How do you explain these emails, which clearly show you discussing the transfer of millions of dollars through the Grant Foundation for personal gain?" Richard stammered, attempting to downplay the significance of the emails, claiming they were taken out of context. But Anna pressed him relentlessly, presenting him with specific details and inconsistencies in his previous testimony. "Mr. Miller," she continued, her voice rising slightly, "did you or did you not receive a substantial financial bonus shortly after these fraudulent transactions took place?" Richard hesitated, his face flushed. Under Anna's relentless questioning, his carefully constructed facade finally crumbled. He was forced to admit to receiving the bonus, but he claimed it was unrelated to the Grant Foundation transactions. a claim that the jury clearly found unconvincing. The cross-examination was a masterful display of Anna's legal skills, effectively dismantling Richard Miller's defense and exposing his lies for all to see. The final nail in the coffin for Richard Miller's defense came with the testimony of the Omnicorp senior executive who had initially contacted Anna. He took the stand and provided a compelling first-hand account of the fraudulent activities within the company and Richard Miller's active participation in the scheme. He corroborated Anna's evidence, confirming the authenticity of the emails and providing crucial context for the financial transactions. He testified about the internal pressure to conceal the truth and the fear that permeated the company. His testimony painted a damning picture of a corporation willing to break the law for profit and a lawyer who had abandoned his ethical obligations for personal gain. The insider's testimony was powerful and credible, further solidifying the prosecution's case and leaving the jury with little doubt about the guilt of Omnicorp and Richard Miller. The classic confrontation had reached its climax, and the truth, championed by Anna Walker, had emerged victorious. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the jury returned with their verdict. A hush fell over the packed gallery as the foreman read the pronouncements. On the charge of financial fraud, we find the defendant, Omnicorp, guilty. A collective murmur rippled through the room. Then, the foreman continued, his voice clear and resolute. On the charge of fraud and forgery, we find the defendant, Richard Miller, guilty. A wave of emotion washed over the courtroom. Gasps of surprise and satisfaction could be heard throughout the gallery. Anna Walker, sitting alongside the plaintiff's legal team, allowed a small, weary smile to grace her lips. Justice, after a long and arduous battle, had finally been served. The immediate aftermath was swift. Richard Miller, his face ashen, was promptly taken into custody. The smugness and arrogance that had defined him throughout the trial had vanished, replaced by a look of utter disbelief and dawning despair. His fall from grace was complete, his once promising career now in ruins. Omnicorp faced a barrage of legal challenges, fines, and a catastrophic loss of public trust. The verdict marked the beginning of a long and painful reckoning for the corporation. The repercussions of the Omnicorp scandal extended beyond the corporation and Richard Miller. Anna's former law firm, which had so readily dismissed her concerns and actively supported Richard, now found itself under intense scrutiny. The public exposure of their role in concealing information and their apparent willingness to prioritize profits over ethics sparked widespread outrage. A formal investigation was launched by the State Bar Association into the firm's conduct. Investigators meticulously reviewed internal communications, interviewed partners and associates, and examined their handling of the Omnicorp case. The atmosphere within the once prestigious firm became toxic, with blame and suspicion running rampant. Long-standing partnerships fractured, and the firm's reputation, once impeccable, was now severely tarnished. Clients began to jump ship, seeking representation from firms with a stronger commitment to ethical practices. The investigation ultimately concluded that the firm had indeed acted improperly, leading to significant sanctions, including hefty fines and the suspension of several senior partners. The once powerful institution was now facing a period of profound instability and a long road to regaining any semblance of public trust. The outcome of the trial and the subsequent investigation into the law firm cemented Anna Walker's transformation from an underestimated outsider to a celebrated champion of justice. News outlets hailed her courage and tenacity, praising her unwavering commitment to the truth in the face of adversity. She became a symbol of integrity in a profession often plagued by cynicism and self-interest. The legal community, which had initially ostracized her, now looked at her with newfound respect and admiration. Many lawyers, inspired by her story, began to re-examine their own ethical obligations and the importance of speaking truth to power. Anna received numerous accolades and awards for her bravery, and her story became a source of inspiration for aspiring lawyers, particularly women and minorities who had faced similar prejudices. Job offers poured in from reputable law firms across the country, each eager to have such a principled and talented attorney on their team. Anna's name became synonymous with justice and integrity, and her reputation as a formidable legal mind soared. The woman who had once been dismissed as a mere token was now a rising star, her future filled with promise and the opportunity to make a real difference in the world. Behind bars, Richard Miller's world had completely imploded. Stripped of his wealth, his reputation, and his freedom, he faced the harsh reality of his actions. The connections and influence he had so carefully cultivated were now meaningless. He was abandoned by many of his former allies, who sought to distance themselves from the scandal. The legal battles were far from over for Richard. In addition to the criminal charges, he faced numerous civil lawsuits from investors and individuals who had been defrauded by Omnicorp. The once confident lawyer now found himself on the receiving end of the legal system, facing the consequences of his own deceitful actions. The weight of his betrayal and the enormity of his downfall began to take a heavy toll on his mental and emotional state. He was a pariah, his name forever associated with shame and disgrace. The once bright future he had envisioned for himself had been irrevocably extinguished by his own greed and unethical choices. For Omnicorp, the guilty verdict was just the beginning of their troubles. The corporation faced massive fines and penalties from regulatory agencies. Their stock price continued its downward spiral, and their once loyal investors fled in droves. The public outcry against their fraudulent activities led to boycotts and a significant decline in their business. Numerous civil lawsuits were filed by shareholders, employees, and other parties who had been harmed by the company's deceit. The legal battles dragged on for years, further damaging Omnicorp's reputation and financial stability. The once powerful corporation, a symbol of wealth and success, was now a cautionary tale of greed and the devastating consequences of corporate malfeasance. The unraveling of their empire was a slow and painful process, a testament to the far-reaching impact of their fraudulent actions. With her name cleared and her reputation soaring, Anna Walker had numerous opportunities before her. She carefully considered her options, reflecting on her experiences and her aspirations for the future. Ultimately, she decided to forge her own path, one that aligned with her deep-seated commitment to justice and her desire to help those who had been wronged. She established her own law firm, a small but dedicated practice focused on representing individuals and small businesses who had been victims of fraud, discrimination, and corporate abuse. She wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those who had been marginalized and overlooked by the legal system. Anna's firm quickly gained a reputation for its unwavering dedication to its clients and its fierce pursuit of justice. Her own experiences gave her a unique perspective and a deep empathy for those who had been wronged. She became a sought-after advocate, her courtroom appearances marked by her sharp intellect, her meticulous preparation, and her unwavering commitment to the truth. The woman who had once been underestimated was now a beacon of hope for those seeking justice against powerful adversaries. Anna's former law firm continued to grapple with the fallout from the Omnicorp scandal. The sanctions imposed by the Bar Association had a significant impact on their operations and their ability to attract top talent. The once vibrant atmosphere within the firm was replaced by a sense of unease and uncertainty. While some within the firm recognized the need for significant reforms and a renewed commitment to ethical practices, others remained resistant to change, clinging to the old ways of doing business. The scandal served as a stark reminder of the dangers of prioritizing profits over principles, but whether the firm truly learned its lesson remained to be seen. The shadow of the Omnicorp scandal would likely linger over the firm for years to come, a constant reminder of their complicity in the injustice. Years later, Anna sat in her spacious, sun-drenched office, the walls adorned with framed accolades and photographs of the many people she had helped. Across from her sat a young woman, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down her face. Anna had just secured a landmark victory for her, a single mother who had been unfairly targeted by a large corporation. "Ms. Walker," the woman choked out, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't know how to ever thank you. You fought so hard for me when no one else would listen." Anna smiled warmly, her eyes reflecting genuine empathy. "That's why I do what I do, Sarah. Everyone deserves to have their voice heard and their rights protected, no matter how powerful their opponent." She reached across the desk and gently squeezed Sarah's hand. "Remember, you are strong, and you are not alone. There are people who care and who are willing to fight for what's right." As Sarah left, a sense of profound satisfaction washed over Anna. This was her purpose, her calling. She had transformed her own painful experience into a force for good, creating a haven for those who had been marginalized and mistreated by the system. Anna gazed out at the bustling cityscape below. Her journey had been fraught with challenges, betrayal, and moments of deep despair. But she had never given up on her belief in justice. She had faced down prejudice, corruption, and powerful adversaries, and she had emerged victorious. Her story had become a legend in the legal community, a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of ethical conduct. Her firm continued to thrive, representing clients from all walks of life who had been wronged and needed a fierce advocate on their side. Anna had not only cleared her own name, but had also created a legacy of fighting for the underdog, ensuring that others would not have to face injustice alone. The dawn of a more just future, one where everyone had a fair chance, was slowly breaking, and Anna Walker had played a significant role in ushering it in. The tale of Anna Walker serves as a potent reminder that true strength lies not in power or privilege, but in courage, integrity, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. It underscores the critical importance of challenging prejudice and standing up against injustice, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. Anna's journey highlights the profound impact one individual can have when they refuse to be silenced and dedicate themselves to fighting for what is right. As the great Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Anna's story embodies this sentiment, demonstrating that the fight for equality and fairness is a collective responsibility. Her refusal to be defined by the limitations others tried to impose upon her, her unwavering belief in her own capabilities, and her commitment to ethical principles are lessons that resonate far beyond the legal profession. The wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi echoes in Anna's actions. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Anna's initial isolation and the skepticism she faced did not deter her from pursuing what she knew to be right. Her story reminds us that the truth has an inherent power, and with perseverance, it will ultimately prevail. Thank you for joining us on Anna Walker's inspiring journey. We hope her story has resonated with you and has reminded you of the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult. If you enjoyed this tale of perseverance, justice, and the triumph of the underdog. Please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories that will entertain, inspire, and provoke thought.